This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for April 24th, 2025. This is season 14, episode number 62, and episode number 501 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. I am Bob Howard. I may sound like I have a nasal problem. Well, that's because I have come down with something. It is Wednesday evening at 8:38 p.m. as I'm recording this right now. And yes, I have something going on in my nose, inside my head, that is driving me absolutely bonkers. And when you use your voice for something, and sometimes it gets in the way of a cold, or a cold gets in the way of that, or in the way of you being able to think clearly, it is the worst thing ever. But I am here. I just got done recording with Wiegelman of the Port Huron Prowlers. You're going to hear a little bit of their side of the story going into, obviously, the second round semifinals series between the Binghamton Black Bears and the Port Huron Prowlers. I am not going to talk a long time, just for the simple fact that I want to be able to get through this without coughing or losing my voice, because more than likely that will probably happen. So, obviously this weekend, the Binghamton Black Bears and the Port Huron Prowlers will play 3 games. Obviously, first game is going to be on Friday in Port Huron. Black Bears are busting it out there, as Andreas Johansson has already indicated. They are renting a sleeper bus to hopefully give the guys the ability to get some, to be able to relax a little bit better and have an easier chance of resting after the game on Friday. So hopefully that'll turn out good. But obviously first game's on Friday in Port Huron, and then games 2 and 3 on Saturday and Sunday in Binghamton. The Sunday game is a 6 o'clock start time versus the other 2 games, which will be 7:05 and 7 o'clock respectively. All right, the Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search Power Play Post Show. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And on this edition of the Power Play Post Show from the Port Huron Prowlers, as I already mentioned, returning guest. We've had him on before, Will Wiegelman. Will be here on the show in just a little bit. All right, the Binghamton Black Bears and the Port Huron Prowlers meet for the first time ever in the Commissioner Cup playoffs. This is the Empire Division Finals, or you could call it the Commissioner Cup semifinals from the division, Empire Division, that features the defending Commissioner Cup champions, Binghamton Black Bears, and the third seed Port Huron Prowlers, who have been in the second round of the playoffs, who have not been in the second round of the playoffs in the last 6 years. The Prowlers won the FPHL championship. It was the FHL championship at the time in 2015 and 2016, the first season of the Prowlers, and then made it to the finals in the 2017-18 season, losing to the Carolina Thunderbirds. Not many guys are still around from that time period. In the first round, the Prowlers defeated the Danbury Hat 2 out of 3 games to advance. So in those games, the first game was on April 18th, and that was in Port Huron. So that was the one game that Port Huron got to host, and the Prowlers won that one 6-3. In the second game, which was in Danbury on April 19th, the Hat-Tricks won that game 4-2, and then Port Huron came back on April 22nd or 20th. Sorry, my bad, and won that game 5-3. That was a very interesting game. I did watch that. That was on Easter Sunday. Very entertaining game. In the first round of the playoffs, the Black Bears defeated the Watertown Wolves in a sweep 2-0. As most of you know, Black Bears won on the 18th, which was Friday, 3-2 up in Watertown. Very entertaining game. And then in front of 4,400 plus fans on Saturday, April 19th, the Black Bears shut out the Wolves 4-0. And in my eyes, was a very good game played by the Black Bears, very good defensively. The Black Bears and the Prowlers have played each other 6 times in the regular season. They have played the first 4 games in Binghamton and then the last 2 in Port Huron. Okay, let me get to the first game. The first game was in Binghamton. That was on October 26th. Kyle Steffen got the game-winning goal in overtime as Binghamton beat the Prowlers 5-4 in the first game that they met against each other. In that first game, Nuusinainen was the goaltender and Eggy was the goaltender who got the win in that first game. In the second game on November 9th, the Black Bears got a 2-0 shutout win. Okay, that was Connor McAnano's shutout win. So he got that win. They won that 2-0. Sirota got the first goal of the game, so he got the game-winning goal. In the third game of the season, also still in Binghamton, the Port Huron Prowlers won that game 5-3 on December 6th. Tucker Scandalberry got the game-winning goal for the Prowlers in that game. Nolan Egbert got his first loss against the Prowlers, and Reed Cooper got the win in that game. Now, on December 7th, the Black Bears came back. That was the next day on a Saturday night. They won 5-2. Kyle Steffen gets his second game-winning goal against the Prowlers. Cam Clark had a hat trick in that game. And Nolan Egbert won his second game against the Prowlers. And Nuusinainen now, after that game, 0-2-1. In the fifth game of the regular season series in Port Huron, first game in Port Huron, the Black Bears did get a 7-3 win over the Prowlers. CJ Stubbs had the game-winning goal in that game. And Austin Thompson had 2 goals and 2 assists. Now, Nuusinainen then went 0-3-1 against the Black Bears versus Egbert, who has a 3-1 record at this point against the Port Huron Prowlers. Now, in the final game of the season, this is one that people probably remember the most. The Black Bears lost this game 8-6, and Connor McAnano was in for the whole game. Steezy for the Prowlers got the game-winning goal. Thompson did have 2 goals in the game. Nuusinainen finally got his first win against the Black Bears in this particular game. But it's the game that people remember the most because Connor probably did take his worst loss of his career. And unfortunately, that's just, it's going to happen. You're going to remember some of those. Now, the Prowlers finished the regular season 3rd in the Empire Division, 30-18-6 with 95 points. And they had 205 goals for and 163 goals against. The Black Bears finished the regular season first in the Empire Division, 49-6-1 with 143 points, 289 goals for and 141 goals against. The Prowlers are led by, as everybody knows, Matt Graham, 24 goals, 42 assists for 66 points in 55 games played. He's had 6 power play goals, 1 shorthanded goal, and 4 game-winning goals to his credit for the regular season. Alex Johnson, number 2, he's the co-coach for the team. He's got 20 goals, 45 assists for 65 points in 56 games played, 9 power play goals, 1 shorthanded goal, and 3 game-winning goals. Reggie Millette, 1935 for 54 points in 43 games played, 4 power play goals, and 4 game-winning goals. Reed Cooper this year, we bring him up when we talk about the goaltenders. He was 9-4-3 with a 2.86 goals against average and a 9.06 save percentage. He was 2-0 in the playoffs with a 3 goals against average and a 9.24 save percentage. Now, Valtteri Nuusinainen was 17-11-2 with a 2.66 goals against average and a 9.12 save percentage. He was 0-1 in the playoffs, obviously the first round against Danbury, with a 3.03 goals against average and a 9.06 save percentage. Now, when you look at the numbers from the regular season, Reed Cooper won his 1 game against the Binghamton Black Bears, And Nuusenainen, it took him 5 games to get a win against the Black Bears. So, they might be thinking about starting Reed Cooper in Game 1 in Port Huron. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. Now, if they go to Nuusenainen first, they could obviously do Reed in the final 2 games in Binghamton. So, didn't seem like he had any problems playing in that 3rd game in Danbury. So, I think you could start off with Nuusenainen, and if it doesn't work out, you go to Reed Cooper for Game 2 in Binghamton. Or you start off with Reed Cooper and go with what you think might be the best idea. Because Nuusenainen, even though I wouldn't put all the blame on him for those losses against Binghamton in the regular season, there might be some confidence issues there. All right, the Black Bears are led by Tyson Kirkby, 37 goals, 60 assists for 97 points in 46 games played, 12 power play goals, 4 shorthanded goals, 4 game-winning goals. Austin Thompson, 39, 38 and 77 in 55 games played, 6 power play goals, 4 shorthanded goals, and 9 game-winning goals. CJ Stubbs, 23, 43 for 66 points in 43 games played, 7 power play goals, 2 shorthanded goals, and 4 game-winning goals. He has both game-winning goals in the first 2 games in the playoffs for the Black Bears. Connor McAnanima is 33-1 with a .208 goals against average and a .922 save percentage. He is 2-0 in the postseason with a very low 1.00 goals against average and a .946 save percentage. And let's look at the special teams before we head off to our interview with Will Wiegelman. Binghamton power play ranked first, 71 power play goals for a 26% save percentage or 26% conversion rate. And then on the PK, they ranked third with 35 power play goals against with an 86% kill rate. The Port Huron Prowlers, they're ranked 8th in both categories. They've scored 50 power play goals for a 20% conversion rate. And on the PK, again, 8th ranked, and they have given up 51 power play goals against for 80%. Listen, I think the big key to this upcoming series for the Black Bears, and this is really, truly what it is, do not fall into the shenanigans of what Port Huron can sometimes do. They do play a very physical game, and they try to goad you into retaliation-type penalties. If they're going to take one, they're going to try to get you to go in the box with them. And again, I just don't think that's a good idea for the Black Bears. So trying to stop the retaliation-type penalties and keep yourself out of the sin bin is probably going to be the best thing against the Port Huron Prowlers. So coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show, as I'm barely able to talk right now, is our friend from the Port Huron Prowlers. He is Will Wiegelman. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
You're listening to the Power Play Post Show. Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. Yes, I am all nasally. I do apologize to all the fans out there. I have a little bit of something that hopefully I can kick before the end of the week, before the playoffs start. But I am so glad to have this gentleman back here on the show with me. He comes to us from the Port Huron Prowlers. He is their broadcaster. He is Will Wiegelman. Will, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you on, and I'm glad that we're doing this interview from about, 800 or 900 miles apart from each other, so I do not get you sick. I'm glad you're not in the studio here with me right now.
Yeah, got to keep the voice in top-notch shape, especially this time of year. Hopefully you can get yourself a little bit better, but trust me, the fans here know that I've had to push through things like that during weekends, and they can tell sometimes, but they know that I've had to push through stuff like that at times. So, hopefully you can get yourself back to 100% by the time we make it to Binghamton on Saturday.
No, absolutely. Will, let's talk a little bit about the end of the regular season. The last couple months for the Prowlers were pretty busy. First of all, you guys had a 9-game winning streak. You brought in some college players. Can we start off first with that 9-game winning streak? I think as you guys kept building that up, getting 4 wins, then 5 wins, then 6 wins, I think everyone started to really kind of take notice of the Prowlers and say, hey, wait a second here. This is a team that's now starting to really compete at the level that people probably thought they should be.
Yeah, and it's funny, like that wasn't just a 9-game winning streak. That was a 12-game point streak.
Yeah.
And that all started against the Danbury Hat. End of February, last 3 weeks of February into March, Prowlers played 5 out of 6 games against the Hat Trick, 2 at home, 3 on the road. And they won 2 of those games, but 2 others they lost, beyond regulation. They were very tight games, and that was before really they got the back part of their collegiate signing. But yeah, this is a team, and Chris Paul has talked about, the Prowlers assistant coach, who I talk to after every game. I get his interviews out on our social media platforms. He talked about how gritty and gutsy the performances were that first full weekend of March. Prowlers had such a crucial 3-3 against Watertown, who was ahead of Port Huron at that point, and then 2 against Athens at home. And it was such a big weekend, and all 3 of those games ended 3-2 for Port Huron. It was actually a weird stretch. It's a fun stat where the Prowlers had 5 straight games, and 6 out of 7 that ended exactly 3-2, and they were in a long stretch of 1-goal games, and they were fighting through that time, and that's really what kicked it all off. After that weekend, the competition eased up a little bit. Certainly, you got 4 games against the Motor City Rockers, a team the Prowlers were able to dominate all year long. They finally solved the venom during that streak, and then they beat Mississippi to sweep the regular season series. But yeah, I think they gained a lot of confidence down that stretch in March, and all those points really proved crucial because you really wanted to get that 2nd or 3rd seed and avoid that play-in game, and they were able to. Watertown was ahead of them, but that big winning streak pushed them in front of the Wolves and made sure that they didn't have to play that play-in.
Obviously, your very close rivals are the Motor City Rockers. You already mentioned it a little bit. What was the season record against the Rockers like this year? It seemed like the Rockers had a lot of turmoil and a lot of things going on in-house that kind of maybe affected their season this year. Hopefully next year it's a little bit better for them so they can be a little bit more competitive. But what was the record like this year versus the Rockers?
The Prowlers finished 12-1-1 against Motor City. In the last 2 years, the Rockers did win the regular season series, but they were pretty close. The 2 teams were throughout the season, and this year it just felt like it wasn't even close most nights. Ricky Gonzalez stole 1 or 2, and that's how Motor City got their wins. But Motor City was just not what they've been the last couple of years, and it was kind of to be expected. They traded away their 2 biggest offensive pieces, and one more, TJ Delaney, decided not to come back. But I mean, the Prowlers really took care of business and took it to Motor City all season long. I mean, they set a franchise or tied a franchise record, and they're on the 28th during that winning streak. They scored 7 goals in the first period in Motor City at Big Boy Arena. And, I mean, I see a lot of those Rocker fans. They watch me a lot because their broadcast typically doesn't travel even to Port Huron. So they watch me a lot, and I chat with them a little bit when we're down there, and they just seem very frustrated with the way this season went because, as you mentioned, there was a lot of turnover, a lot of turmoil, especially with the coaching right at the beginning of the season. Having Gordy Brown leave, and then the other coach, I forget his name, that was there, and then kind of left halfway through training camp, and it was just such a bizarre thing that they had to go through this year. But they have Nick Fields, their old GM, back in the fold, and we'll see if they can build back for next year and become more of a threat in the Empire again.
Logistically and for the survival of both teams, how important is it for both teams to be around, right? I know Port Huron has been around for a long time, 10 years, so I know they can survive without Motor City, but how important is it to have Motor City in the league for even just Port Huron, just to have that close travel partner to have?
I mean, in a league where every dollar counts, if you can erase 3 to 4 road trips, which 7 road games a season against Motor City, that erases 3 to 4 bus trips. So you're not getting on the bus, you're not paying the driver, the gas, the meals, the hotel, all of that stuff. You're taking away 3 to 4 trips of that, and that's thousands of dollars saved in a league where, again, every dollar counts, no matter what team you are. So it is huge, and obviously you guys know it in Binghamton, playing Danbury and Watertown and Hudson Valley so many times each year, and then Elmira, of course, before that. So many times, just because they're close trips and you can go there and come back, you play home and homes and things like that. But I mean, even to a greater degree here, it's 45 minutes between McLaurin Place and Big Boy Arena. So, we don't even pack up the bus.
Yeah.
We drive our cars down there just because it's logistically easier, and we can come back, sleep in our own beds, morning skate on our own ice, and eat at home on those days. So it's not only exponentially easier on the guys, but again, it saves money in a league where every dollar certainly counts.
If traffic is good, it's 45 minutes, 40 minutes to get there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Really nice. All right, so we talked a little bit about the college recruits coming in, and obviously two that stand out to me is Bobby Price and Drew Welsh. But you guys have brought in 5 guys, or leadership group there has brought in 5 guys. Can you talk a little bit about, obviously, Price and Welsh, but the other 3 guys as well who've kind of come in, because I think this league is finally starting to understand, and I'd say about 8 out of the 14 teams really kind of cashed in and have been cashing in on bringing in college recruits in early at the end of the season so they can prepare them either for the playoffs or for the next part of that. Talk a little bit about some of those college recruits that you guys have gotten.
Yeah, and really it's actually 6, as Dylan Marty, his season ended relatively early at
cool.
Lawrence University, and he ended up being signed as a standard player, got the full 15 games in before we got to playoffs. So really they have 6. You have him, they have Braden Simmons-Fisher, big defenseman, and then the 4 guys out of Trine University. And, Simmons-Fisher has quickly become a fan favorite. One of his first home games was against Athens, and he fought Kyle Powell, 6'6". Simmons-Fisher's listed 6'7", and that was a heck of a scrap.
Yep.
Dylan Marty is an absolute wrecking ball. He's not the biggest guy on the ice, but he runs through guys, and he's certainly not afraid to throw the body. And then you get these 4 guys out of Trine University, which is actually a super interesting story. The 4 of them, they're all seniors. They were all roommates, and obviously they're all playing together at Trine, and Trine had one of, if not its best season in program history, made the NCAA tournament for the first time, won a game, and so these guys came to Port Huron coming off of an NCAA tournament run, and really just fit right in, and they all also happen to be Michigan natives as well. So, their family's been able to come and see them, whether it's been at home or at Big Boy Arena and whatnot. So it's been such a cool story, and obviously their chemistry on the ice it's been there because they played together for 4+ years and whatnot. But they've all come in. You have Price, who is the captain over at Trine. You got Welsh, Tyler Fox, the other forward, and then Tim Orkin, the defenseman, and all of them have contributed significantly in that first-round series against Danbury. Obviously, Price scoring a big goal in Game 1. The hat trick might have been able to put the series nearly away about halfway through Game 1. They were up 2-0, they had a power play. Connor McCollum looked like he was stopping everything, and it was all going Danbury's way. And Bobby Price scored shorthanded, and that flipped the entire game. Prowlers scored 6 unanswered and take game 1. And then in game 3, you get goals from Fox as part of 2 in 12 seconds. That right after the overturned goal by Danbury, Prowlers get 2 in 12 seconds to take the lead, and the second one coming from Fox, and then Price scored what was the eventual game winner, and then the goal that allowed Port Huron to exhale just a little bit, the insurance marker, with under 4 minutes to play. So, those guys have stepped in and played huge roles. I mean, Oregon, a couple of assists in that first round series. Welsh scored a big goal in game 1 as well. And so they've all played huge roles in the playoffs. And again, those are guys who are coming off of an NCAA tournament run this spring. So they know what it means to play in big games, and it certainly helps.
Yeah, without a doubt. And this team, I've always classified them as a very physical. They're going to put the body on you. They're going to use their sticks to obviously engage your stick and or the puck a lot. So they're very physically, into the game. Did these college recruits coming in kind of fit into that Matt Graham philosophy of being very physical, body on body, getting the sticks, where they want them to be? Because in some cases that can really frustrate some other teams, and Port Huron has done that really well, and they even did that well a few times against the Black Bears this season.
Yeah, and there are a lot of teams in the FPHL that rely on skill. You look at Athens.
Yeah.
They're a team that's out of the playoffs now. But, I mean, they were a high-skill team. Binghamton obviously has their high-skill players. Danbury, you look at that Russian line, which is a high-skill line. But come playoff time, if you can play gritty and you can play physical and use your sticks, use your bodies, and kind of wear those guys down, that can be a strategy that works. And I think Gleb Van Durken and Alexander Vasiliev, they kind of got theirs a little bit in that first round series, but their third line mate, Vadim Frolov, was a non-factor for much of that series, and I think the Prowlers were able to shut him down. They did keep Vasiliev from doing a ton of damage. He had the game winner in game 2, but Port Huron was certainly all over him in game 3. And then again, Frolov, there were large chunks of game where he was being sat on the bench in favor of the extra forward, who was typically Connor Woolley, who was mixing in on that line for a while. So I think that play certainly did well to frustrate some of the skill guys for Danbury, and that's what Port Huron is probably going to have to do to have success against the Black Bears, is continue to frustrate, play physical, and just make the game as difficult as possible on Binghamton as possible.
Let's talk a little bit about goaltending now. Obviously, Nuusenainen I took the loss and the one loss. Reed Cooper obviously got the 2 wins. Probably if someone was looking at the season, looking at the Prowlers, and then looked at the goaltenders in the playoffs, they probably wouldn't think that, it was Reed that got the 2 wins, but it was not necessarily Nuusenainen's fault in any way. I mean, just that's how some games kind of play out. Their numbers are very similar, right? In the playoffs. Talk a little bit about the goaltending, because to me, it shows a lot of strength and a lot of confidence in Matt Graham to go with Reed Cooper in Game 3.
Yeah, and I think it's a big advantage that the Prowlers have over most teams in this league, especially in the playoffs. Like, how many teams in the playoffs can run out 2 different goaltenders? I think really the only other one you would think of would be Carolina at this point. But the Prowlers have 2 very quality goaltenders that they feel confident can win them a game each and every night. And I mean, you saw Reed Cooper at his best in that third period of Game 3. He had to make 24 saves in the third.
Yeah.
Patrick's had a couple of power plays. They killed off a 4-minute double minor for the high sticking call, and that was when it was a 4-3 game. I believe there's another penalty they had to kill off in that third period when it was still a 4-3 game, and there was also, I believe, a penalty near the end as well. But again, the Prowlers certainly see that as an advantage to have a 1-2 punch that they are confident in putting either of those guys in the net, and the players in front of them are confident that those guys will make the saves, and if they can make the plays, they can win the game. So I think that's a huge advantage, especially in a short series with travel, that you can have one goaltender, not even, and to have three goaltenders at all. Yoshihiro Kuriowa, who I just call Yoshi on the broadcast because it's a little bit easier.
Yep.
He dresses and is part of a huge part of it, because that allows the other goaltender that's not starting to not even have to go through the pregame warm-ups, not have to go through their game day routine or anything. They can just kind of relax, and that's what Reed Cooper was able to do on Saturday. And unfortunately for the Prowlers, they weren't able to get the win on Saturday, but they had a rested Reed Cooper to go against Connor McCullum, who was pulled in game one, but other than that had played every minute for Danbury.
Now, obviously, at the beginning of the third game, Tucker Scandalberry got himself into a little bit of trouble, gets kicked out of the game. He's a guy that's 39 points that are out of the game in the regular season for that. What were your thoughts on air about, basically that particular situation where now all of a sudden you don't have one of your top 6-7 guys in the game?
I think one of the players said afterwards, when Tucker was getting escorted off, he turned around and Chris Paulin was furiously scribbling on his on his notepad, a sheet of paper behind the bench, because that's not a situation you expect to happen, especially 16 seconds into the game, and you're playing the entire game with 9 forwards, and there were a couple different points where guys got banged up. Austin Federley left the game for a small stretch as well in that third period. So, I mean, they were pretty short at times, but I think it speaks to, and Chris Paulin talked about this, the grit that's on this team to push through it. I think the Prowlers are going to get him back for game one. I don't think there's going to be anything beyond what he already got, which is good for Port Huron. But to have a guy like that out of the lineup is certainly tough, and I think the team responded well to fill in and be able to make up for his absence throughout the rest of that game.
I always say that the physicality and sometimes the penalties kind of get toned down. But going into this second round series between Binghamton and Port Huron, you have the two most penalized teams in the league in the regular season going against each other. But usually the playoffs, it's a little bit more defensive-minded. There's not as the high scoring, and sometimes even the penalties kind of come down. Is that how you envision this upcoming series?
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think either team is going to change how they play. So I think how the penalties are called is going to be more up to the officiating staff than how the teams play. Certainly, I actually talked with Danbury's broadcaster Doug Latuca. Between the second and third on Sunday, it felt like the first period and the second period were very different. First period was penalty filled, and it felt like a lot of things were getting called. And even in game two, there's a lot of pre-face-off things going on, and there was actually a misconduct both ways for delay of game because of pre-face-off shenanigans. But and then in the second period on Sunday, it felt like everything just stopped. That there was not a single penalty in the second period. I don't know if that's as much game flow or if things started to get let go just a little bit more or what. But it will be interesting to see which team can stay out of the box in this upcoming series. I think it benefits Port Huron significantly to play 5-on-5. I actually counted it out today, and if you take away all power play goals for power play or shorthanded goals for both teams,
right?
Binghamton outscored Port Huron 16-15 in the regular season series at 5-on-5, and that includes empty netters as well. So it was right about even 5-on-5 between the teams this season, despite Binghamton having a sizable win at McMorran Place. So I think playing 5-on-5 will be a crucial key for the Prowlers.
Well, and one of the things that I've been telling fans most of the season, well, at least when we got done with the Port Huron regular season play, was this is a team that beat Binghamton twice out of 6 games. Yes, they've got 49 wins on the season, but Port Huron beat them twice and also really kind of disrupted Binghamton's play through those 6 games that they played. I know there was the 2-0 shutout, but, I mean, Port Huron played in the last game that these two teams played against. They won that game 8-6. So they really kind of figured out Connor McAnanima and probably gave him his worst beating of his career at this point. I'm pretty sure it is. So there is something that Port Huron knows about Binghamton that maybe other teams didn't know.
Well, it's always good to have a goaltender in the coach's room, so he can get in Chris Paul, and he can get a little bit more dialed in on how the goaltenders work, and it's certainly a new perspective offensively that's from that coach's room, and that they can figure things out to try and just get another goal, because this time of year, just getting one more goal can be the difference between your season being over and moving on to the final.
Now, each team obviously has to deal with this. Binghamton will probably be coming out on Thursday, traveling out. But there is no breaks between these games. There's no travel day like there is in a couple of the other series, and generally how there is like in the NHL and even the AHL. A lot of travel days kind of built into the series. I think, in a sense, both teams are on equal footing when it comes to the travel for this, right? Port Huron's already out there. They'll host Game 1 on Friday, and then they both have to travel to Binghamton for Game 2. To me, there doesn't really seem to be an advantage there for either team.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that it keeps it as even as possible, because you talk about the difference between a Friday night crowd and a Wednesday night or a Thursday night crowd.
Sure.
No matter what team you're looking at in the league, whether it's Monroe, who had unbelievable attendance throughout the year, or Port Huron, you're going to get a better crowd on a Friday night than you will on a Wednesday night. That's just the fact of the matter. So I think that's why you need to play these games the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because the league is such a ticket-driven league,
right?
And also to have the best playoff environment possible, you want to play that on a Friday night at the lower seed. So I think that's the best way to do it, personally, I think. And, there were times in this league where you played 5, 6, 7 games in a row, and you're traveling all around, and you didn't stay in the same city for 2 days in a row.
Right.
This is a long time ago, but we have players on this team who've been around the league for a long time, so you hear those kinds of stories. But again, I think teams will be able to figure it out. I don't think it should be too much of an issue, and as long as the players don't let it be an issue to them. You have to play the games on your schedule. That's how it is. So you get on the ice, and when you're told to, and get into the game, and as long as that doesn't get in your head too much, then it shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Well, Will, if whatever vile germ that is inside of me gets out of me by Saturday, I am looking forward to coming over and saying hello. And if for some reason I just wave to you from my little vantage point that I have at the arena in the press box, you know that I was feeling good enough, but didn't want to infect anybody, so to speak. So, but hopefully I get to see you on Saturday. I look forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Should be a real fun series, and I expect Port Huron to really show something, because this is a team that doesn't necessarily get a ton of attention around the FPHL world. I think really Sunday was the first time that the team has gotten significant attention, and it's probably the most attention this team has gotten in my 3 years here. I think we were setting records on a number of people watching the broadcast at one time. So, yeah, it should be a great series.
Absolutely. He is Will Wiegelman of the Port Huron Prowlers. Will, thank you very much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Always a pleasure.
And we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.